fiberglass.
Feck fiberglass.
No, feck you instead of feck fiberglass.
No, feck you 2 times instead of feck fiberglass.
Hey now! Jesus, he started it.
This is Theatre Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. Our first 2 guests are charming, talented, and they are Tony nominees. So here to introduce them, my co-host, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Who is just as charming and talented, but not alas, a Tony nominee. The Lonesome West is a fierce and funny Martin McDonagh play at the Lyceum Theatre, and it features 2 terrific performances by Dawn Bradfield and Brian O'Byrne. Welcome to Theatre Talk, and congratulations to both of you on your Tony Award nomination.
Thank you very much.
All right, you guys are from Ireland, where you don't sort of backload all these plays into the last minute to win big important awards. What's it like for you, this whole crazy Tony Award circus?
Well, I think it's fantastic. This is my first year being here. It's my first time doing a play on Broadway, so it's very exciting. I'm sure for Brian, he's tired of it now at this stage.
Well, Brian, you were in The Beauty Queen of Leanne, and you were nominated for a Tony last year, too.
Last year, beaten out by some guy called Tom Murphy, who has never seen the light of day since. I've had my people completely scuttle his career. Obviously this year has been a lot more rushed. We came in at the very end of the season to be in time for the Tony nominations, as most plays tend to do nowadays. Last year, it was part of Beauty Queen came from Australia, came to the Atlantic off Broadway, and just happened to be on Broadway, and the thing kind of just opened up in front of us. Where this year, it was much more, I guess, from the producer's point of view, much more a planned approach.
You guys are both in really tough categories. How do you feel about competing against other actors for this all-important award?
I don't think actors, certainly I don't think either of us, or most actors you speak to, don't think in terms of competing. It genuinely, and I'm not just saying that because I'm up against some...
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, I don't know any of these other...
Right, that's right. You got that a lock on that category.
Some right grave person.
It's all yours.
They're quaking in their boots at the moment, the thought of going up against me. But I genuinely don't think that actors look at it as a competition, you know? It is an honour to be nominated. Mm-hmm. And to be actually, because unless we were all playing similar roles, then we could go, okay, it's your turn now. I'm going to play Valine, or Kevin Spacey is Valine in The Lonesome West. And,
he's Valine in real life, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we don't think of it as, I don't think either of us think of it as a competition. Now, obviously, producers do, but actors, I don't think. We go in to do the job every night. We are honoured to be recognised.
The thing is, at the end of the day, we have to go and do this play, whether we've been nominated for a Tony or not. We still have to go in every night and do the job as best we can and tell our story. And so, you know, being nominated is a wonderful thing. It's absolutely fantastic. But we still have to do. Better than not being nominated,
I'm sure.
No, I don't. You see, I mean, in my case, in the play, I play a couple of brothers who are literally become the one person most of them, because they're rolling around the floor quite a lot together as one person. So to pick me away from picking Melissa is very difficult, because my character cannot exist, and most of my stuff comes from playing opposite Melissa. So I think of it as a nomination for the two of us, really.
And of course, you went through the experience where you were nominated playing a brother last year, and the other brother won the Tony. Did you feel like that was a Tony? Did you feel? No, and I voted for you. But did you feel that was your Tony, or did you feel kind of?
No. I was so thrilled. We were all so thrilled that we all got nominated. It really didn't. I mean, one of us had to.
Yes, one of you had to go, right?
You know, but I had so much fun that the three of them all won. This person over here,
right,
glaring at the world.
Third guest tonight.
The three other characters all won. I had such fun slagging them off, going every performance, going, do you really think that was a Tony Award-winning performance you gave today? So the pressure was lifted.
But let me ask you, you're a 4-character play, The Lonesome West, and 2 of you get Tony nominations. What's it like to go the next day to see your friends in the play who weren't nominated? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
I mean, is that awkward at all? You know, I mean, all of a sudden you guys have been elevated to a sort of a different level, at least till the run up to the Tony Awards, when you're going to be invited to all the parties and racing around and having a good time.
Well, it's not really like that. I mean, I was watching the nominations being announced, and when I heard that the Lonesome West was nominated, I was just thrilled because it meant that we were all winners. We were all gonna, you know, be okay. And then Brian was nominated, and Gary was nominated, and then
Gary
I was
Hines, your
nominated,
director.
Gary Hines, the director, and it was just it was so fantastic for Martin and for the play and for Druid. And I think if say one of the other actors was nominated and I wasn't, I don't think I'd feel bad about that. I think just the fact that we got 4 nominations for the play is fantastic.
So when you were watching and you heard your name as a
Yes.
nominee, what did you do?
My mother and father were with me at the time, so they'd come over for the opening, and we just danced around the living room for half an hour. It was just amazing. It was
As you do every
fantastic.
morning.
Every morning we do that. We do a little river dance across. Yeah.
I want to ask you about this world that you're creating in the Lonesome West. It's back in Linan. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's correct. Well, yes, you are.
And this bleak village, is this creating a real kind of Irish place of just despair?
No, it's obviously heightened. It's Martin McDonagh's own world. Linan itself is the most beautiful, picturesque place you could ever imagine to visit. However, I'm sure, as in anywhere in the world, there are corners, dark corners, where people like what Martin has created live. However, his language, everything about his plots, everything is slightly heightened. We're not talking about reality. It exists in theatre. It's a very theatrical piece that you would not see this in film, except maybe perhaps My Brother's Keeper, which was a documentary
Oh,
made
that's a wonderful
years
movie.
ago.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
Which in some ways, I mean, that's reality, you know, but there were similar type characters in some ways, slightly odd, slightly lost in our normal world. But Martin then puts them all together and just lets explosions happen.
And I guess you've got sons shooting their fathers in the head all over the world to get the inheritance.
You do,
But any more
unfortunately.
questions?
Yes, very quickly. Dawn, your character is interesting because the 2 brothers here are fighting all the time, and it gets pretty intense and fierce. And you're this sort of cute, wisecracking girl in the
A
town
ray
who
of
comes in as the...
sunshine, I think, was one of the reviews. I think that sums up my character.
It's a funny, very funny play. It's a fierce play, and when
it's
you're on,
very
it's also
sad.
it's a very sad play and a very touching play.
And a deeply religious play, as far as I'm concerned.
Good.
Jeez, can we
Yes.
sell it any harder here?
Yes.
It's the Lonesome West. at
Come to the church.
At the
of the
Lyceum.
Lyceum.
But deeply philosophical beneath the comical.
I
yes.
hope so. I hope so. That's what we would hope, that people leave exactly with those
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah. Brian O'Byrne, congratulations on your 2nd Tony nomination.
Thank you very much.
And Dawn Bradfield, congratulations on your 1st.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us tonight. And good luck,
Thank
June
you.
6th.
Yeah, we'll see you June 6th.
Great.
Okay.
Always the best ones go to hell. Me, probably straight to heaven I'll go, even though I blew the head off poor Dad. So long as I go confessing to it anyways. But that's the good thing about being Catholic. You can shoot your dad in the head and it doesn't even matter at all. Well, it matters a little bit.
Our guest is a television producer and my idol.
He's not just a television producer, he is one of the legends of television. Jac Venza created great performances, dance in America, theater in America, and he is producing this year, for the 3rd time, I believe, the PBS version of the Tony Awards. Now, as everyone knows, the Tony Awards begin at 8 o'clock on PBS. They run on PBS from 8 to 9, and then they switch over to CBS from 9 to 11. Jac Venza, you have your act together on PBS. We're still waiting for the CBS part of the show to come together without a host and without all the presenters yet. Is that a problem for you, or do you let them worry about the latter half and you take care of your half?
Well, this whole thing was conceived together. How it happened is that the people from the theater wing and League of Theaters called on Bill Baker, the president of our station, and said, there are really too many awards that we can get with the airtime allowed on CBS. Not surprising. This happens with the Emmy and the Oscars as well. And they said they would give us the first show, and I said that was great. And I said, Bill, there is no first hour show. There are some awards, a series of unknown people. What do you mean? He said. I said, I have to create a show. We have to somehow build a program around the fact that these people who, more than any, need some support explaining what they do.
The scenic design.
Designers, lighting designers, orchestrators.
Well, everyone said, well, why are those given off here? Are they important? I said, of course they are. They're really in three, and I'm going to refer to my notes here. They break down into the three categories in our hour. Music, the best book, the best score, and the best choreography. But I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, without those, I mean, what would the performers who are going to be in the other hour be doing? And the designers. I started and still am a member of the Designers Union. That's how I began in this business. So I care about these guys a lot. And there's costumes, of course. And then, this is extraordinary, is the directors. It is true the general television public may not know the name of the directors, and we've enjoyed very much in this category giving a sense of people what directors do. People don't know still what happens behind the scenes in the theater, and so the hour gives us a chance to do that.
And how do you do that? I mean, I remember past shows, you have fairly extensive interviews with the designers and the directors. You go to their studios, you interview them in their workplaces.
What happened is we went to all of the unions and sat down and said, we'd like to do this differently. We can't bring whole production numbers, and I don't have the money or the time to do that. What we need to do is, with our documentary unit, go backstage and see what's going on in the theater so that by the time the public hears these names, they know who they are, they know what they've done, and that's important. So we're trying to get them at work. So with really the support of all the unions, about payment, they've let us go backstage and see scenery being put up so a designer can say, this is what I'm doing. For example, this year, Crowley, who did Iceman Cometh, takes you down to the village, to the bar that he went to, that really he used as his source material.
What bar is that? Old Town? I've
forgotten which one it is. Actually, we'll make a date and we'll go down. We'll check it out and see if it matches.
On PBS's dime.
As a former designer.
That's right. But so you sit him in the bar and he talks about drawing the inspiration from the...
For example, last year, Way Mighty Long took us backstage and explained that why the girls in Chicago look this way is look what he has done to their legs and everything. I mean, there's an angle. I mean, information we all can use later.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I want to talk about plays for a minute. This is a season loaded with plays. And I have asked the Tony people repeatedly this question, is there a way you can figure out to get plays on the Tony Awards? And I keep hearing that plays fall flat, scenes from plays don't work. What's your feeling about that? I mean, you've put musicals, operas, plays on. Can you make plays interesting for a short period of time on the Tonys?
The problem is the brevity. See, I think the problem you have with it for the Tony show is one of the reasons that I joined public television in the first place. Everything of some quality in terms of music, etc., has always been asked to be simplified, abbreviated, and moved more quickly. When we started public television, we said, you know, maybe it'd be nice to hear the whole opera. Let's see what it is. Because all we've ever heard is the 5-minute version on Ed Sullivan.
That's right.
You know, she sings a little more than that. So the opportunity was extraordinary. But if you would have told me that there wouldn't be a place in the network for a Cole Porter song, for example, and that was the reason we began theater in America, because the texts of theater were never heard by the broad public. And by the expertise that came from the wonderful nonprofit theaters, you've got to remember we care not as much about the New York audience very often when some of those things is getting to this huge country where people are distanced from the finest in dance and all those things by geography and by economy. We've got to remember many people in this country cannot afford cable yet. And all they see are the 4 networks. And so, now, that means that the problem, I think, with drama is abbreviating it when you have essentially a piece of written material, literature that's been written for 2.5 hours. And it's a problem for us in television as well. People are not accustomed to sitting and listening to words to 2.5 hours. So we're always trying to find ways to do that.
Is there any possibility in the future of, on the PBS part of the show, showcasing the plays in some way? Because it seems clear that they're never really going to get their due on CBS.
To be fair, those are the awards that they want on the network.
Right.
They're not handing us any of the performance areas.
Right.
And in effect, they feel that they need those because those were the place where you will have very recognizable faces. The hope is that someone in the theater might be recognized by a television audience someday as being a star.
Right.
And you know, it is strange because today, I think more than ever, more than when I began, which is a long time ago, I began in television 50 years ago, there was not as much crossover. I think today you have actors who do films who come back to theater more than before. How do you all feel? Don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, you've got Kevin Spacey and Brian Dennehy.
Look at Swoozie. What Swoozie's doing, one of the toughest things on Broadway, and she's someone I adore, but I adore her for tackling that project.
On the subject of the host of a Tony show, there is no host. This is the hostless telecast. Are you comfortable with this no-host format? No Rosie O'Donnell?
Yeah, so we decided, remember, we're working very closely because half of our show is Walter Miller's show. It's essentially the beginning of things. So what we're doing, and I think we can announce, is that we're working out an opening of what Welcome to the Evening with Bill Irwin. Because remember, they're getting a special Tony.
Full moon, right.
So they're doing some zany kind of welcome to the night, and that's how we're doing it. Because there was not a host as it was with Rosie, because Rosie did a little thing. And our problem on our show last year was Rosie was saying backstage we're getting ready because she didn't want to give away her opening costume and all that carrying on.
Right. It was cute though. I mean, there's an informality about the PBS.
So she said, "Hey, this
nice.
evening's great. There are all these fabulous people doing theater. You see them now. I'll be back and I'll see you." In this case, with Walter Miller, we decided, why don't we just get someone to open up the evening with us who isn't necessarily committed to hosting the whole evening, because it is a chore.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to host an evening when I see how tough it is.
Yes, I was surprised. I talked to several people of star caliber who said, no, I wouldn't want to do that. It was too daunting.
I think the question always is the people who would want to do it, the people that the network executives feel can draw their audience.
Yeah.
That has been the conflict.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And there are two points of view about what those things are. In public television, we want stars as well, but our sensibility of stars might be a little different, and should be.
Well,
that's the point of an alternate service.
Absolutely.
If, if you don't have another sense of values offering, because the public should somehow have a television of some kind that's important and potent and available that does not determine on the size of audience, but the quality.
And don't you think that audiences, they may not know, I mean, we find this on our show, because we interview a lot of people behind the scenes, directors and producers.
Yeah, but you have quality.
Yes, right.
You guys don't invite anyone that's not great, in my experience.
But don't you find, though, that the audience, if the person is interesting, even if the audience doesn't know who they are going to respond to it, and you're going to have an interesting bit of television.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how you all feel, but when I open the Times and see a double-page spread for a movie in which I haven't heard of any of the names, we're running out of stars. So we're going to have to start making them. And in fact, I think television today, in some of those strands, has made stars, who people we don't know. The problem then is, how do you recycle those television stars into something they wouldn't do otherwise? I think that Susie is a perfect case of it. She's someone who really developed a reputation in the New York theater, went out and made a career for herself there, and wants the opportunity. And we're going to see, I think, crossovers happening more and more.
Yes. Well, we're now getting it the other way. We have a lot of these sort of teeny bopper stars who made it on the popular sitcoms coming to Broadway for a month in the summer to do a little theater.
Scott Wolf.
Scott Wolf.
No
from
offense,
Party
Mr. Wolf, but we all went, who? But he's apparently a big.
It's true, because
star,
those of us who are in the theater, we are sort of like monks. You know, we only know theater people, and then when they say somebody from Dawson's Creek is coming on Broadway, I'm like, Dawson's who? What is that? I haven't seen it.
I agree with you, and it's hard. And I must confess that I'm very bad about seeing the other television for this reason. I am trying to see everything in the theater. And in my case, there are many vulnerable things. If someone says, this is a new piece of choreography and there are only 3 performances, I got to get to that. The movie I can somehow rent.
Right.
The result is I'm so poorly informed about the movies because I have the rest of my retirement to catch up.
Matrix.
And the titles that disappear over the horizon, we'll forget about.
All right, the Tony Awards, produced by Jac Venza.
Well, this is launching the Tonys.
Launching the Tonys.
We're launching the Tonys, and I want to mention my friend Jeff Hornsby, because Jeff is the one who created the style on City Life and created a rapport with the theater backstage that we're carrying over. I think if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't. No one in the theater would know what we were talking about. We talked about, let's do it another way.
Right.
And to me, one of the joys of this experience was the first night at Radio City when everyone was suddenly told that the first hour we were all going to watch the Tonys. Everyone said, "Oh, we are?" Because they're so accustomed just rattling through that first hour.
Right.
At Stagebridge. And Gary Smith said, no, we're now on the air. We are on the air on public television. And everyone suddenly looked up at these screens, and I could just see everyone saying, there is another way to treat the theater.
Right. You can make theater interesting on television.
There is another way to do it, and that has been a joy.
Yeah. All right. It's on PBS June 6th, 8 to 9 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Produced by Jac Venza.
And Jeff Holsby.
And Jeff Holsby, yes. Thanks a lot for being our guest tonight. We'll see you at the Tonys.
So, Michael, not only is there a lot of preparation going on for the Tony Awards broadcast, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes preparation
A lot of
going on,
politicking
too.
going on. Yes, you know, the Tony Awards like to pretend that they're an award for excellence in the theater, but in fact, they're very important marketing tools to Broadway shows. So producers will do whatever they can to maximize their chances of winning. And one of the things that they're doing now is there are 812 Tony voters, and you would think that these voters would jump at the chance to use all the free tickets they get, but in fact they don't. They're notorious for missing a lot of shows, particularly ones that they don't think have a chance to win. So the producers have their interns in the office go through the list of voters, almost like you would do if you were in a presidential primary trying to get out the vote. Call all of the Tony voters to make sure that they've responded for the tickets, to make sure that they come in to see the show. That's a big part of it. Another part is you have the schmooze factor. This month has been full of cocktail parties and brunches and Tony Award lunches and all this type of thing. And if you're a Tony Award nominee, you are expected to appear at all these things, almost like a presidential primary where you go on the rubber chicken circuit
Yeah,
and
I've
meet
seen
everyone.
a whole lot of Kevin Spacey this time.
Yeah, I know, and Kevin Spacey is not one really to spend too much time with the press, but he's been out everywhere, politicking very hard because he is in a very close race with Brian Dennehy for the Best Actor in a Play Award. And Spacey, I must say, is a masterly politician. I mean, he gave a speech to a group of road presenters who are an influential block of the Tony voters a couple of weeks ago, and those people are still talking about it. They were so flattered that Kevin Spacey took the time to speak to them. And believe me, those things stick in your mind when you go to mark that X on the ballot. Yeah. And also, Spacey has been giving speeches to high schools about the theater, and he's gone on Charlie Rose to talk about the theater. All of these things, I think help. Judi Dench, even though she's going to win the Tony Award, she's got a lock on it, she still appears at all of the awards ceremonies, the run-ups to the Tony Awards, all the brunches, all that stuff. It's important, as one producer told me, to be accessible in the run-up to the Tony Awards. And anyone who isn't, it's noticed and probably could damage your chances.
Yep, well.
So the other interesting politicking that goes on is the ad wars. Shows need to draw attention to themselves, not only at the box office, but also from the Tony voters. So now they're spending a lot of money in the New York Times and in Variety, advertising 8 nominations, 6 nominations. But the dirty little secret about that is, as everyone knows, nominations rarely translate into increased ticket sales. So these producers are caught in this terrible hell of having to spend $75,000 for a full-page ad in the New York Times advertising nominations that are probably going to bring them, $10,000 worth of tickets. Very dangerous for the plays that are not going to win the award, like a Lonesome West, which is not going to win the Tony for Best Play. But they're now forced to spend a lot of money that they will never recoup. So, in fact, Tony Award time is very, very treacherous to producers.
Okay, so we'll see you next time on Theater Talk with our annual Tony Prediction Show, which will air next Friday at midnight, and again on Tony Day, 6:30 p.m. on
Channel 13.
Channel 13. So let's close now with an awfully good play, The Lonesome West.
I met the postman on the road with a letter for valet. That postman fancies me, I think he'd like to be getting into me knickers. In fact, I'm sure of it.
Him and the rest of Galway, Gerline.
Galway minimum. The European Union, more like. Well, a fellow won't be getting into my knickers on a postman's wages. I tell you that now.
Are you charging for entry, so, Gerline?
I'm tinkering with the idea, Coleman. Why? Are you interested? We'll take more than a pint and a bag of potatoes now, mind.
I have a £3 postal order somewhere I never used.
That's nearer the mark now. What kind of wages do priests be on, Father?
Will you stop now? Will you stop? Isn't it enough for a girl going around flogging Putchie, not to be talking a whoring herself on top of it?
You're only cutting you, Father. He's not having another crisis of faith. That's 12 this week. We should report him to Jesus.
Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the Friedrich Loewe Foundation, the Harburg Foundation, and public funds from the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
Playbill Online is the official website of Theatre Talk and the home of the Playbill Club, providing exciting opportunities for theatre lovers. We welcome your questions or comments for Theatre Talk. Thank you and good night.